Hello, welcome to Bluebell Storytime Online. I'm Mandi Cantrell, Youth Services Director at the BBCML Memorial Library here in Sylacauga, Alabama. Our summer theme is Imagine Your Story. So we're looking at fairy tales, folk tales, legends, mythology, things like that. So these stories today I want to read are tales. This is Anansi and the Moss-Covered Rock. This is an African tale and it's retold by Eric A. Kimmel. You'll be a fan of Anansi's, I think, like I am when I finish. Once upon a time, Anansi the spider was walking through the forest when something caught his eye. It was a strange moss-covered rock. How interesting, Anansi said. Isn't this a strange moss-covered rock? Boom! Everything went black. Down fell Anansi, senseless. An hour later, Anansi woke up. His head was spinning. He wondered what had happened. I was walking along the path when something caught my eye. I stopped and said, "Isn't this a strange moss-covered rock?" Kaboom! Down fell Anansi again. But this time, when he woke up an hour later, he knew what was happening. "Aha," said Anansi, "this is a magic rock. And whenever anyone comes along and says the magic words, 'Isn't this a strange down he goes." "This is a good thing to know," said Anansi, "and I know just how to use it." So Anansi went walking through the forest until he came to Lion's house. Lion was sitting on his porch. At his feet was a great pile of yams. Anansi loved yams, but he was too lazy to dig them up himself. Anansi said to Lion, "Hello, Lion. It is very hot today. Do you think so?" "Yes, Anansi," said Lion. "It is terribly hot." "I'm going for a walk in the cool forest," said Anansi. "Would you like to come?" "I certainly would," said Lion. So Lion and Anansi went walking through the forest. After a while, Anansi led Lion to a certain place. "Lion, do you see what I see?" "Oh, yes, Anansi," said Lion. "Isn't this a strange moss-covered rock?" Kaboom! Down fell Lion. Anansi ran back to Lion's house and made off with Lion's yams. An hour later, Lion woke up. His head was spinning. Anansi was nowhere in sight. And when he got home, he found that every single one of his yams was gone. And Lion was very sad. But Anansi was very happy. He couldn't wait to play his trick again. Once more, Anansi went walking through the forest. This time he stopped at Elephant's house. Elephant was sitting on his porch. At Elephant's feet was a great pile of bananas. Anansi loved bananas, but he was too lazy to pick them himself. So he said to Elephant, "Hello, Elephant. Isn't it hot today?" "It is," Elephant agreed. "I'm going for a walk in the cool forest," Anansi said. "Would you like to come?" "That sounds nice," said Elephant. "Thank you for inviting me, Anansi." So Anansi and Elephant went walking through the forest. After a while, Anansi led Elephant to a certain place. "Elephant, look! Do you see what I see?" Elephant looked. "Yes, I do, Anansi. Isn't this a strange moss-covered rock?" Kaboom! Down fell Elephant. Anansi ran back to Elephant's house and made off with all the bananas. An hour later, Elephant woke up. His head was spinning. Anansi was nowhere in sight. And when he got home, he found that every single one of his bananas was gone. And Elephant was very sad. But Anansi was very happy. He couldn't wait to play his trick again. He played it on rhinoceros and hippopotamus. He played it on giraffe and zebra. He played it on every single animal in the forest. But all this time, watching from behind the leaves, was Little Bush Deer. Little Bush Deer is small and shy and very hard to see. She watched Anansi play his wicked trick again and again on all the other animals. Little Bush Deer decided it was time for Anansi to learn a lesson. So Little Bush Deer went deep into the forest to where the coconut trees grow. She climbed a coconut tree and threw down a great many coconuts. She carried the coconuts home in a basket and set them on her porch. Then she sat down beside them to wait. In a little while, along came Anansi. Anansi's eyes lit up when he saw Little Bush Deer's coconuts. Anansi loved coconuts. He loved to eat the tender white coconut meat and drink the sweet coconut milk inside, but he was much too lazy to gather coconuts himself. Instead, he said, "Hello, Little Bush Deer. It is so hot today." Little Bush Deer smiled. "It is very hot, Anansi. I'm going for a walk in the cool forest. Would you like to come?" "Yes, I would," said Little Bush Deer. So Anansi and Little Bush Deer went walking, walking, walking in the cool forest. After a while, Anansi led Little Bush Deer to a certain place. "Little Bush Deer, look over here. Do you see what I see?" Little Bush Deer knew all about Anansi's trick. She looked. "No, Anansi, I don't see anything." "You must see it. Look very carefully." Little Bush Deer looked. "No, I still don't see anything," she said. Anansi began to get angry. "You must see it. Look over here. Look right where I'm pointing. Do you see it now?" "No, Anansi," said Little Bush Deer. Anansi stamped his legs. "You see it. You just don't want to say it." "Say what?" said Little Bush Deer. "You know." "Is that what I'm supposed to say?" "Yes," said Anansi. "All right then. I will say it to make you happy." "You know," said Little Bush Deer. "There, I said it. Are you satisfied?" "No," Anansi shouted. "You're not supposed to say, you know." "What am I supposed to say?" "You're supposed to say, 'Isn't this a strange moss-covered rock?'" Kapong! Down fell Anansi. Little Bush Deer ran and got all the other animals. Together, they went to Anansi's house and took back all the good things he had stolen from them. An hour later, Anansi woke up. His head was spinning. Little Bush Deer was nowhere in sight, and when he got home, he found his house as empty as it was before. But if you think Anansi learned his lesson, you're mistaken, because he's still playing tricks to this very day. Anansi is quite a trickster spider. We have several of his books. I'd love for you to come see him. He's got some really neat stories. Well, we just heard a story about that tricky Anansi the spider, and I've got something I want us to sing about spiders. We're going to be spiders, all right? I think of doing my hands like this, like spiders do, maybe. "I'm a little spider, watch me spin. If you'll be my dinner, I'll let you come right in. Then I'll spin my web to hold you tight and gobble you up in one big bite." Great, good job. All right, the next story is Little Red Riding Hood, but it's a little bit different. We know the story of Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. This is Little Red Riding Hood and the Sweet Little Wolf. So it's a little bit different take on the story. This is by Rachael Mortimer. Once upon a time, there was a big bad wolf who lived in the woods. Well, that's not quite true. Really, she was a sweet little wolf who loved all things pretty and pink, especially fairy tales. She lived with her mom and dad, who were very big and very bad. Mr. and Mrs. Wolf shook their heads. "When will you ever learn to be a real wolf like us? It's time you went out to get us dinner." So Sweet Little Wolf set out. She hid behind a tree. "I must be clever and cunning," she whispered over and over again as she looked at her mother's list. "Here's the list. Dinner is 1 onion, 2 large potatoes, 3 carrots, 1 sprig of rosemary, 1 little girl, tender and juicy." Just then, Red Riding Hood skipped by on her way to Grandma's house in the woods. Sweet Little Wolf couldn't believe her luck. She scampered slyly and followed her along the path. Red Riding Hood was reading a story out loud. Once upon a time, with a flick of a wand, a girl's rags turned into a beautiful gown fit for a ball. It was a fairy tale. Sweet Little Wolf pricked up her ears and listened. Outside Grandma's cottage, Red Riding Hood finished the story, and they lived happily ever after. Then she went inside. says Grandma is gone to pick bluebells. Sweet little wolf felt in her pocket for a handkerchief. Happy endings always made her cry. She pulled out her mother's list. Oh no, what had she been doing? She couldn't go home without dinner. There was only one thing to do. Grandma was out, so Sweet Little Wolf crept into the cottage after Red Riding Hood. She tried her hardest to make a scary face. She pointed her sharp claws. She practiced her best growl in Grandma's bedroom mirror. Her family would be so proud. But then she spotted a lovely pink robe and a frilly nightcap on the back of the bedroom door. Sweet Little Wolf couldn't resist trying them on. Suddenly she heard Red Riding Hood in the next room. The girl was reading again. Once upon a time, a girl was rescued from a tower in the middle of a forest by a handsome prince. Sweet Little Wolf lay down in Grandma's soft, cozy bed. She would just listen to one more story. Then she would be a real wolf. Soon Red Riding Hood heard a strange noise coming from Grandma's bedroom. Snuffle, grunt, snort. Snuffle, grunt, snort. She was surprised. Grandma was supposed to be picking bluebells in the woods. Why was she snoring in bed? She looked closer. Oh, Grandma, what big eyes you have! And what big teeth! Red Riding Hood pulled back the covers and screamed, "It was the big bad wolf! Help!" she shouted. "Wolf!" A woodcutter heard Red Riding Hood's cry and ran towards the cottage as fast as he could. But Sweet Little Wolf didn't leap out of bed and chase Red Riding Hood. She hid under the covers and sobbed great big tears. "I don't want to be a big bad wolf," she cried. Red Riding Hood felt sorry for Sweet Little Wolf. She told the woodcutter that she was perfectly safe and wrote a letter in her very best handwriting. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Wolf, once upon a time there lived a little wolf that didn't want to eat girls. She loved all things pretty and pink and dreamed of being a good, kind wolf. So this story has a different ending, a happy ending. Best wishes, Red Riding Hood. Sweet Little Wolf ran home with Red Riding Hood's letter. Mr. and Mrs. Wolf were delighted to have their little wolf back. They had been worried, particularly when they heard about the woodcutter from their forest friends. "It doesn't matter that you aren't a big bad wolf. We love you just the way you are," said Mrs. Wolf, tucking her into bed. Little Wolf fell fast asleep, dreaming of princesses and magical lands and lovely little girls. Well, she was a wolf after all. Well, that's a little bit different Little Red Riding Hood story, but I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for joining me to hear some Once Upon a Time stories.